All right, guys, so you just got your 72 volt system for your Super 73, and what do you do next? I've had a lot of people in the comments asking me, how do you do a hall test sensor? How do I get the rear brake light working with this kit using the factory battery and controller? And I'm gonna show you everything that you should do after you get it all hooked up, and some stuff that you might not know when you first hook it up that you might have an issue with on why it's not running correctly. Let's get into it. First thing I need to do is I need to take off these 3 screws. There's one here, one down there. And once they get this off, you can see what we're working with underneath the bike. I use Park tools, but you can technically use whatever Allen set you want, but I love these things. They're real nice and compact. All right, we got all our screws off. The panel comes off and it exposes everything that's underneath. You're gonna notice some changes to my setup, maybe compared to yours. I kept some of this little foam to kind of put in between some places just so the battery doesn't rub up against the little corner edges of this controller. I also put a bunch of foam back here just to keep the battery from kind of moving back and forth. You're gonna notice a lot of this cable does not go to anything. This is for my turn signals. But this original wire right here, I kept the stock motor wire intact, but honestly, I don't think it's a good idea. If you're gonna do this setup and you're not planning on going back to stock, I would just totally get rid of this because it causes so many problems when trying to put this side panel on. Because I've had a lot of people message me and say, I can't get the side panel on, I can't get it on. Well, that's because this cord is in the way, and you'll see that on mine. I basically just tucked this under just to get it out of the way. And you'll see mine has an indent on it because it's been sitting against basically the cover that covers all this stuff up. Same with this too. You can see mine's getting a little damage right here too. What I would highly suggest, and I haven't done it yet, is get a Dremel, put your side panel on and see where it fits. Then come down to this little spot right here, and this is gonna be the bottom of it, and basically just see where it lines up at and just like shave a little piece off of this little corner. You're not gonna see it's gonna be underneath the bike. I would just do that for reassurance so you don't mess up the motor cables going to this, because once you do that, you got to get a whole new motor or rewire it yourself. All right, let me get in here and cut some of these zip ties because I kind of already put my stuff all together. I didn't want nothing making any noise, so it looks messy, but it doesn't make a single bit of noise, and it's all been nice and good for me. But just for the sake of this video, I want to kind of get everything out of here and go over a lot of stuff. One thing I highly suggest is once you get these motor wires on, I put a big fat piece of duct tape across the whole entire thing. It's easy to peel off. I can take it off right now if I want to, but I'm not. And this basically just protects it, just in case any of these come loose. You do not want the positive or negative touching. It will literally spark and it will burn this thing down or short something out. And you do not want that happening. So I just put tape over this. I don't want none of these ends to hit any of the terminals and cause a spark or arc or anything like that. So highly suggest taping this. So when you first get your kit and you get it all hooked up, and some people notice that there's 2 wires and they're exactly the same. Now, if you hook up this wire to this one and you go to move your bike, the motor will start twitching out and not working correctly. These both hook up the exact same way. All you have to do is basically take the connector off of this white one, hook it up to this other white connector, and you'll be good to go. The next thing I would do is I'd download the app and I would get into doing the hall sensor test, which I'll show you right now. Before you do a hall sensor test, have one of your buddies help you, or just get a jack like this. You can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Just basically lifts the bike off the ground so you can do the hall sensor test, because the motor is gonna rotate. So you will need to hold it, and I believe you gotta hold it for probably 30 to 45 seconds. And this is not a light bike once you do this whole setup. So have a friend or get a jack. All right, so you're gonna wanna head over to the App Store, and you can get this for the iPhone or Android, doesn't matter. Click this, come into, it's gonna say not connected. We're gonna have to come over here, hold the power, get the bike turned on. Once the bike is turned on, it will give you this little thing. Mine says to restart. I can hit restart. I can disconnect and then try to reconnect. Now, the reason why it's giving me this issue, and you guys might have had the same problem. Now, you need to come down here. There's one little cable. It's a white cable. Let's see if I can find it. This is the white cable that you need to disconnect. Once you disconnect this, then it will work. But what I like to do is I like to turn the bike off first and redo it with this disconnected. So let's do that real quick. So come up here, let's turn the bike off. All right, we got that wire disconnected. Come back up here, let's turn the bike on. It's gonna say not connected because the bike isn't on yet. Then let's reconnect. It's automatically gonna find the bike because there's a Bluetooth dongle in here, which is basically this little thing right here. Just leave this connected and you should be good to go. I leave mine just tucked under there. All right, once you are connected and on this screen, you're gonna hit this wrench icon right there. Go to given current. I did 10. You can go higher, but the higher you go, the more power it's gonna put into the rear motor when it does this test. And you come over here, hit hall test, go into run mode, do test mode, and from there, you should be good. It's going to start rotating the wheel ever so slightly. If you can see that, it's barely moving. If you do go up to say like 100 on that given current, then it's definitely gonna be rotating this wheel a lot faster. So I just do 10. It's good enough to give you your offset angle. That's all you really need. That's gonna save your motor. And don't be worried when you see your display after you disconnected that white wire that we did down there. You're gonna have a check engine light like a car, and then you're gonna have a communication error just because that white wire that we disconnected is gone. Now my test is completely done. It will say test status at the bottom and it will say test okay. Once you're done with that, take it out of hall test mode and put it back into normal operation. Come back. This is where you can get into some super crazy stuff if you want to up the speed and power on your Super 73, 72 kit. Once you're in here, the biggest thing that you want to go down to if you want to get more speed out of your Super 73, 72 volt system is come down to flex weakening, enable that, so make sure it's green. Come down to the next part right under that, it will say flux weakening current. Go to 50. 50 is the max that you can do on this Sabaton controller, which is a 72-100. The 72 means 72 volt, and the 100 behind the controller name means 100 amps. You can only do flux weakening half of what your amps are. It does take away a little bit of torque, but honestly, you don't really need that for this type of bike. It's not even made to have this much speed or torque, so I didn't really notice a big difference, but that's the biggest thing that you want to do when you come into the settings. So those are really the only two things you need to do on this app. You can come in here and you can change the limiting voltage, over voltage, DC current. I have the DC current at 100 on mine, boost current at 100, rated phase current at 150, 260 for the phase max current, and protective phase current is 350. I don't have any temperature control, so hopefully we don't have any issues with that. Now let's get into some other stuff. There's a few cool settings in here. Acceleration milliseconds. I have mine at 250. On my Sur-Ron, I believe I have it at 100 because the Sur-Ron's a lot more easier to get going and feels a lot more safer. This one, I feel more weight towards the back when I'm moving. So I have mine at 250 because I don't want to be doing a wheelie or anything like that. And then you have your deceleration. Mine's at 300. You got your mid throttle voltage. I have mine at 3.0 just because I'm using a thumb throttle on mine. So I love this thumb throttle. You get them on Amazon. I didn't like the big thick throttle that came on here. Plus I wanted to use these Troy Lee grips. So my settings for mid throttle current is only at 30. Yours is going to be totally different. You're not going to want to have my settings because I just had to adjust this thumb throttle as much as possible. You don't want to mess with any of this other stuff. You can change the speed limit for internal. There's no limit on mine. You can do low speed or mid speed. That'll be your settings. All right, so let's come back down in here and I want to show you how I got the rear brake light working. Now to get the rear brake light working, you do need to have your stock battery connected and you also need to have the stock controller either under your seat or move it around however you want. If you don't have this set up, this is not going to apply to you. But basically all you have to do is when you get your kit, you're going to notice it comes with two brakes and they both have connectors. I connected one of these brakes to the factory controller, and then I also connected one of these factory wires that go to the stock controller that's underneath the seat to the wires in this kit. And that basically makes it think when I hit that brake, it literally thinks that I'm using the original brakes and it lights up the rear brake light like normal. It's super easy. All you have to do is find the wires in this wire loom, disconnect it, put one of these on here, and you're good to go. Another thing to make things super easy. Once you get all your wires done, you got it cleaned up however you want it, zip tied out of the way, take this little wire because this is the main wire you need to connect to the app, right? This always has to be disconnected. Just push it down in here and have it come out the bottom of the bike. Mine's literally sitting right here. You can zip tie the wire if you want to this little thing. I just kind of have mine hanging down. It doesn't really sit that low. It's normally like kind of up here. But it gives me enough room to actually be able to grab it under here, disconnect it, get my phone. I don't have to take the side panel off whatsoever. So that's my little secret of always being able to modify the controller settings without having to take the side panel off, because it is not fun. If you have this kit, you're gonna understand it is not fun. Another thing too, this is the charging port. I noticed in their videos and in their pictures, they normally had them sitting like right up here so you could charge it. That's still a good spot if you wanna do that. What I basically do is once my side panel's on, I basically just stick it in between here and you don't even see it at all. The wires obviously stay like all in here. And basically it just stays right in this little corner. I'll get my side panel on right now because I'm pretty much done working on this and show you guys where I put that. All right, working on your Super 72 can really get you hurt. I don't even know how that happened. All right, so now that my side panel is on, this is how I did my connector. These wires just come up here, this goes here, and it literally just slides down in place. That's literally as simple. It never comes out, it never moves. I mean, yeah, if you maybe go off-road and do some crazy stuff, it might pop out, but it reminds me of the Onyx, just kind of how it comes down right here and just attaches on something. You could put a magnet on it if you want, but when I go to charge it, all I do is pull it out and bam. It's long enough, it's not stuck real close to the bike. That's kind of how I did mine, but you guys can, you know, do it however. I just want to show you how I did mine. And if we come underneath the bike after the charging port, you can see that I do have my little cable. That's how you disconnect it, and then you can connect it to Bluetooth on your phone. I love it being down here. You guys can do whatever you want. This is just my suggestion, just so you don't have to deal with always taking this panel off every time you want to adjust the settings on your phone. So just leave it down here, disconnect it, reconnect it when you want, and then just kind of tuck it under, but don't push it all the way up, and you're good to go. And again, guys, enjoy riding, have a good time, be safe on this bike because it is sketchy, especially with stock tires. I didn't have an issue with mine, but I mean, if you do happen to get a flat when doing 50 miles an hour, that might be kind of dangerous. I highly suggest people getting motorcycle tires. We did a range test on motorcycle tires and street tires. We didn't have any difference. I mean, technically we would, but I was taking a little bit easier on the second run, but you would probably maybe lose, I don't know, 3 to 5 miles like max. So I think it's worth it to get the motorcycle tires when you're already gonna get a range of like 50 miles out of this bike. So again, just ride safe, and hopefully this video helped you guys if you just got your Super 72 kit and you wanted some help understanding it and seeing how it looked underneath everyone's basically enclosure, because all you see is people post up their Super 73 with the enclosure on it, but you never really get to see up close what it looks like. So hopefully it helped. See you guys in the next one. Later.